comes to choosing a college major, my advice is to focus less on like the titles like biology, biochemistry, chemistry, and to focus more on the courses that are required and the courses that you can choose from, like your electives and that sort of thing. And also to be willing and eager to take courses outside of your major. And so, not to count out like liberal arts schools, I went to a liberal arts school and I loved it. So, basically, a lot of people have asked me questions about choosing a college major. And these are just my thoughts, personal thoughts and opinions, based on like the US system. I don't know how it works in other countries, but these are just some of my thoughts that I have. So, like I said, I think it's most important to focus on the courses. So, different majors will have different course requirements that you have to take, and a lot of the times there's like core required courses, like you have to take this, and then there's like electives for your core. So, you might get to choose from a variety of these different topics within some discipline. And so you will have those topics will differ depending on the different majors, but often the core requirements, there'll be a couple that are different, but like say for biology versus biochemistry, in all those cases you're required to take like biology, you're required to take chemistry, general chemistry, organic chemistry, you're required to take physics, you're required to take like up through some sort of math classes. And then there's like all colleges you have to take like your like English classes and that sort of thing. If you go to a liberal arts school, you will also have to take a wider range of like general courses. I went to St. Mary's College of California, which I really loved. We had to take like seminar courses where we read like great books, so like classic literature, as well as some more recent literature, and we discussed it in like a roundtable format with people from all different majors because everybody on campus had to take the course. We also had to take some other requirements, like we had to take more of the social studies types courses, even if you were a science major. And so when it came to applying for grad school and that sort of thing, I was kind of worried that coming from a liberal arts school, not having taken as many science courses as if I was in perhaps like a research intensive institution, where basically all you're taking is the science courses. So I was worried that would hold me back, but really it did not seem to. And so I ended up applying to way more places than I thought because I was like, I'm coming from this liberal arts school. I didn't take oodles and oodles of science classes. I mean, I took a ton of science classes, but it wasn't like I just took science classes. But really, I think that helped me kind of stand out because I had this this more like unique, wider range of experiences. And more importantly, as a person, like I think that having that wider range of experiences was so beneficial, especially like because you're taking classes with people from all these different majors. When you're taking the classes outside of your majors, I think that's super, super beneficial to get like a wider range of view. And taking all of these courses where you're required to do more writing, you're required to do more really deep thinking. I think it really helps you communicate science as well as be creative. Science is a lot about creativity. It can kind of people can think it's really all just like facts, and just like strict like following instructions type of things. But really science is, once you get like into research and stuff, it's all about the creative thinking. You're trying to answer questions that no one else has been able to answer. And so you'll have to come up with new ways to try to address these questions. Even if it's just like simple changes to experiments that have already been done, there's a ton of creativity that comes into play. And so I think that really taking time to acknowledge and cultivate those more creative aspects are really important. But in all of these cases, so it depends what you're majoring in, basically. Instead of really focusing on the titles, like, do you want to be a biochemistry? Do you want to be a chemistry major? The focus on like what the course requirements are for those and what the course requirements are for your next steps in life. So if you're planning to go to grad school, what courses do they require you have for for going to grad school in a certain discipline. And so some of them are stricter than others. So you want to look into that. So even if a course is not required for your major, that doesn't mean you can't take it. So if there's a major that you want to major in that has doesn't have the course that's required for the grad school program that you want to go to, you can probably take that course outside of your major, and it'll still count for your grad school. They'll see that you took this course, but you can also then still have whatever major, even if it didn't have that course as a requirement. The other thing I want to mention is that a lot of times, for chemistry, biochemistry, biology, a lot of the core classes that you have to take, so in addition to the core college classes like your English and your math, then there's the core science classes you have to take, like the intro to the physics, the intro general chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, whatever. The core classes that you have to take are going to be usually in the beginning. That in those the core classes, those shared core classes, basically all those majors, you have to take them, and you have to take them in the beginning. Since you have to take them in the beginning and they're the same for any of them, you can basically, don't be afraid that you're committing too early, because you can declare a major in whatever when you're applying. You can then change your major later on. And since these when the majors have these shared courses, then it's not like you're wasting time in the wrong major or whatever, because you're taking the same courses. And so then when you switch your major, you're not any behind. So don't worry about dedicating yourself to a particular major when you're applying, or even in your first year. So really take time to explore and look at the different options. So me personally, I was a biology major, just a general biology major. I wasn't a biochemistry major, but I took more of the biochemistry classes. We had different options and that sort of thing. And it's more my research drove me into biochemistry more, and I also worked in the chemistry stockroom. So there were a bunch of ways to get more chemistry experience and more biochemistry experience outside of the actual classroom. So I think and I chose the biology in part because they had a wider range of electives that I could take from, and I liked there were a bunch of cool options for electives, and so I liked that, and I still got to take all of the courses that I would need in order to go on to a biomedical sciences type PhD program. And initially I was pre-med, but then I really got into research, switched to a PhD focus, and I'm very glad I did, but very grateful for doctors, don't get me wrong. But yeah, so don't worry about getting set in your major right away, and don't worry, and keep an open mind. I was pre-med, and then I was thinking, okay, well, I really like research, so maybe I'll do an MD PhD. And then I was like, no, I really just want to do this PhD. And I didn't make that decision until summer after my junior year, when it was time to apply. And so I think it's really important to keep an open mind, and don't worry about changing your mind. It's important. You don't know what's out there until you see it. And so going from high school to college, it can be this really big transition. And you're exposed to a lot more things in college and a lot more different opportunities. And so you might find something that you really, really love, and don't be afraid to go after it. And I know there are also options for double majoring and that sort of thing. So try to find a good college advisor or something at your school that you can talk to if you have thoughts about wanting to do something like that. Finally, it's really, really important that if you want to go into research, you get research experience as early as possible. So if you want to do research as early as you can in your college education, try to get a position in a lab, even if it's just washing their dishes and stuff in the beginning. You can really build up to be a more independent researcher. Look for summer research opportunities either on your campus or outside of your campus. I did both. You can also often do independent study. So I did research and got course credit for doing research during the school year. And that was a really great opportunity for me. And Speaking of like research, that's really where you're going to be learning. And so in grad school and that sort of thing, if like my grad program is just like biological sciences, but the work I'm doing is like biochemistry and structural biology. So I could have gone to, there are programs that are more dedicated to that, but really once you're in grad school, like once you do take some courses in the beginning, but then really you're researching like full time, and you're learning in the lab, you're learning in the literature, you're learning all of these places outside of the actual courses. And so it's really important to know that even that you're not like locked into a position particular place depending on what like major you have or what program you have. It really more depends on the lab and the area of research you're taking within your particular project in the lab. And then you also have time to expand and learn different directions, like in postdoctoral positions and that sort of thing. And it's really the experiences that you're going to have. The training of a PhD is really not just training you to do particular skills and to answer particular questions, but to really think like a scientist and be able to seek out knowledge in all these different areas and be able to really learn, know where to learn, like where to get information from, and know how to basically take in all these skills, think critically, all of these various things. And so then you can learn new skills throughout your career. And so biggest advice, don't fret it when it comes to choosing a major, and happy learning.